Hey everyone, so this is a different idea. I want to talk to the people that maybe only know minor pentatonic box 1 really well. They're trying to learn all 5 positions, but they're struggling. Some of those positions are not super comfortable, but they do really know box 1. They know all their favorite licks in box 1, and they want to see maybe if there's a way they can squeeze more out of that single position. So here's an interesting thing you can do. You can move box 1 around into different places. Let's say I'm in E natural minor or E Aeolian. I would naturally think to play the minor pentatonic off of box 1 starting on the note of E. But remember, there are other minor tonalities that are relative to E Aeolian. For example, in this key, you have A Dorian, which is relative to E natural minor or E Aeolian. You also have B Phrygian, which is relative to E natural minor or E Aeolian. So the reason why this is useful is because those minor modes also work with box 1 of minor pentatonic. So in theory, if I was just playing over the E minor backing track the entire time, I could still move around box 1 into different areas of the fretboard. I can root it off of E, of course, but I could also root it off of A, and I can root it off of B. Real quick though, there's a little caveat to all this. Just because you can move box 1 around into different areas doesn't mean that the interval combination is going to be the same. So depending on where you move and depending on the point in the chord progression, it's going to sound more stable or less stable if you're on a particular area. So what I'm going to do now is jam over each individual tonality by itself using the same logic for all of them. So A Dorian, B Phrygian, and E Aeolian. And we're going to see how this sounds and if it's actually usable. And what we're going to realize is it is usable, but some positions are more tense than others, and we have to be familiar with that in order to feel confident in using this approach. So I had to realize that when I wanted to move box 1 rooted off of B, that I found the major 6th interval there by playing that box 1 position. The major 6th interval in Dorian sounds strongest when it's over the 4 chord. So it's not going to always sound good necessarily over the 1 chord or the tonic chord. So if I move it around strategically and be careful with how I time everything, it can sound pretty strong, but it can be unstable in other situations. So just be aware of that. When I played box 1 off of E in A Dorian, it sounded pretty decent. It's highlighting the 4th interval a lot. You hear the 2nd interval, which is useful in Dorian, but still, a couple of times when you hear the 2nd interval being played over the tonic chord, might not be that strong. It might sound a little off to your ear. So mess around with it, but those are the 2 things you want to be aware of in the A Dorian example. Next up is B Phrygian. So obviously in all of these examples, you're going to find the strongest intervals and the most stability where the box 1 position is on the tonal center of the backing track that I'm playing over. So in this situation, obviously, B minor pentatonic position 1 is going to make the most sense. But when I played position 1 or box 1 off of A, it sounded pretty interesting. It sounded really, really strong when you heard this second chord in the progression. In B Phrygian, that chord is C major. So there's a flat 2 happening in the chord progression. And it's going to sound very tense if you try to force that box 1 in A while the tonic chord is being played. But when that second chord, when that C major is being played, it's going to sound pretty good. The E minor also sounds pretty good. It can sound good on the 1 chord, but it sounds strong on that second chord as well, because one of those intervals in the E minor box 1 is going to be one of the chord tones in the C major chord. It's going to be the major third you're going to hear a lot off of the C major. So again, the first box is always going to sound the best, but moving it around is going to sound pretty interesting. You also noticed I was trying to use some classic like B.B. King style blues licks. And the nice thing about this approach is this might not have ever occurred to you before this idea, but you can take that same lick and you can just move it around in those different areas. And you get really interesting results depending on how you target the note and where the chord progression is at that moment in time. It can sound really, really interesting. Here's the final example in E natural minor. All right, some interesting results there as well. So on the E natural minor or the E Aeolian, obviously, again, I'm getting a lot of strength, a lot of stability, predictable kind of sounds from box 1 off of E. But what I liked a lot about it, and maybe this is just the backing track that I selected for this example, when I played box 1 off of B, I heard a lot of emphasis on the second interval. And I think in the backing track, what I'm hearing is an E minor with an add 9. So the 9th interval and the second interval are the same. They're just an octave apart. But whenever I struck that note, I could hear that note being kind of emphasized in the chord as well, which kind of tipped me off to the fact that we're hearing this add 9 or this minor 9 in the tonic chord for this backing track. So pretty interesting sound. I liked playing off of B a lot with box 1. The one that I liked the least was box 1 off of A. It has the minor 6th in it, which normally sounds pretty good, but if I'm striking at the wrong moment, it's going to sound too tense. You have to wait for it to happen at the right moment. But yeah, in other situations or in other times in the chord progression, it kind of sounded pretty good. But I would say E box 1 and B box 1 were the strongest. I like this idea a lot. It's kind of a fresh idea for me, and I'm kind of using it more in my own playing, but I'm by no means super comfortable with it yet. But I like the concept. It's kind of forcing me to think of different ways to play, and I'm getting different interval combinations out of licks that I've been playing for years, but now these licks kind of have a fresh sound because I'm not hearing those same intervals. Hopefully this is really useful for you. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.